Hello, listeners. Welcome to the latest episode. Welcome to this episode. Who knows if it's the latest by the time I get it out there? Welcome to this episode of Grown Women Growing Wealth. And our guest today is Debbie Pace. She's an author, but more importantly, she's a visibility mentor. She coaches her clients on how to show up powerfully to get their message out there. And she's, multiple things like all of us grown women. She's an author and she's a broadcast veteran. Hey, welcome, Debbie. How you doing?
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm doing great, And of course, I've got the most awesome podcast partner in the world, Roberta Ravella. What's up there, you?
I'm doing good. I finally got all my technology working. Yay!
That's good. You're moving forward.
I know.
You're moving
it's crazy.
Forward.
Yeah, I met Debbie at podcast convention, Podfest.
There we go.
She also has a podcast, The Show Up Show.
Yes. And before we get too far in, those of you that are catching the replay of this on YouTube, hey, hit the like button, subscribe, smash the bell so you'll know when we're dropping new YouTube episodes, which is going to be every Friday, and we drop some back episodes on Tuesdays. So be sure to do that so we can see that.
Yeah, so you can see our smiling faces.
Right. Those of you listening to us, awesome. Catch us on YouTube too. Take a look at our awesome backgrounds.
Yeah. So Debbie, tell us how you got started. I know you were in broadcast before you started your podcast and everything. So can you give us the iteration there of how this came to be?
Absolutely. I have a pretty long and deep backstory, so I just give you like the quick version of it. I had been for 17 years. I was a remote journalist. I did have extensive experience. I was a morning news anchor for radio. I did a whole bunch of broadcasting stuff, and my husband and I. It's an interesting story because we divorced in 2013 and then we reconciled in 2014 and got remarried in 2015. And we moved to Florida. And right after we moved to Florida, I started feeling this calling of there was more. It was like this purpose calling. And I used to tell him, I feel like I'm hearing people screaming out in the night for my help. I have no idea what I'm supposed to help them with.
They've got medicine for that.
yeah, right. There's probably more than one. But it was interesting because I just knew that I was being called to do something and I had no idea. So I, just like a lot of things in my life, I kind of backed into coaching. I actually became a coach in 2011 or 2010 or 11. And I never coached. I didn't do anything with it. So it was like all my life, I kind of compiled these things and I had no idea why. I guess my higher self was just talking to me and I wasn't listening for probably the last 15 years. And so basically, I just decided to try my hand at online business and just see where it took me. And I started doing podcasting, teaching people how to podcast, really teaching people how to speak powerfully from their soul, how to uncover a lot of the things that keep us from showing up. And that's why ultimately I did start the Show Up Show podcast, because I really wanted to showcase stories of people who were able to find that thing to push through to get to the next level. And then over the last 2 years, I just decided to focus solely on helping people get media exposure, because that's really, when you talk about upper level games, it's great to be a big deal online, but a lot of people they would be a big deal online and no one had any idea. I would have conversations with people who were these 8-9 figure earners and people offline had no idea who they were. And I started realizing there was this huge disconnect and there was a reason why people weren't doing that. So I started working with people doing like mindset and a lot of inner trauma unblocking to help them show up more powerfully and then get in the media. And then so that's pretty much the Cliff Notes version of my story.
Okay. So by media, you mean news, radio, cable?
Traditional. Yeah, traditional media. Yeah. Magazines, newspapers, television, radio.
So that was your start. So now when you're talking to clients at this point, are you helping them get on podcasts, creating their own podcast?
Yeah, it's really about showing up. So the thing that keeps a person from reaching out to podcasts to be a guest is the same thing that keeps them from pitching a national news magazine or their local radio show. So I think that podcasting is a very powerful method of media. And so that's always on the table when we're pitching, when we're coming up with our strategy of where they want to be. It's like, okay, do you listen to podcasts? Because honestly, if one of my clients doesn't listen to podcasts, it may not be their target market, right? We might not focus there. A lot of people have this big media dream. But what I'm noticing is over the past, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years, a lot more people, they'll say, well, I listened to this podcast. I'd love to be a guest here. So I love just how the podcast industry has just blown up. I mean, I've been in it since 2017 is when I really got fully into the podcast industry, and it's blown up in such a beautiful way.
It's crazy. It is. I think I started listening about that time period. Played around with starting one of my own, but it really didn't take off for me till Roberta and I got together.
Yeah,
she held me accountable.
Helpful. And Daphne handles all the tech. Oh, that's interesting though. You say the blockage that would keep someone from pitching a national TV show is the same blockage that would keep you from asking to be on just a regular podcast. So how do you help people overcome or work through these fears or blockages?
Well, my first introduction into all of this space really was through mindset, and I did a lot of Tony Robbins training and firewalking, and really neuro-linguistic programming, which is really body language and a lot of the inner stuff, and how we show up externally based on what's happening internally. So I learned to read that, and all of my coaching is done either in person or video. So I'm a neurolinguistic programming expert. So I can read people's faces, their body language, even the breath, the pauses. And so what I do is each step of the way, because I have frameworks, any business owner will have like frameworks for what they take people through. But there are pieces along the way where I'm really looking at, okay, is this an I'm afraid to share my story piece, or is there's something else in there that I haven't quite tapped into? And I'm talking about my clients per se, right? So if I'm looking at the client and I can see that there's something holding them back, or I can feel it, because I do a lot of energy work too. So I'm a big energy being, and I can sense if they're holding something back. So every step along the way in that framework, I'm looking at, is there something that's keeping them from fully showing up powerfully and making this an absolute yes for them? So those are some of the tools that I use.
Dead air.
I know, right? I'm looking at Daphne thinking.
Look, because you're talking about the neuro-linguistic programming. I'm a recovering life insurance agent. And I'll tell you, in the I was always a little worried about neuro-linguistic programming. It was like, to me, it was like finding a way to kind of trick the client into doing something. You start, that's the reputation they had with me.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, I've grown more as I've learned more, because I've done Tony Robbins via, tape and CD and things of that nature. But do you still find that you use it a lot now with clients, or because you mentioned you're an expert, or do you feel that has it gotten older, or has it grown with the newer challenges, 21st century?
Well, there's different ways to use, we'll call NLP, right? Make it easier on ourselves today. Okay. There's different ways to use NLP. And I think with anything, if you use it for the good, right, then it has positive effects. Even with coaching, when we look at coaching, some people are doing great, amazing things in coaching, and some people are not necessarily being responsible with their coaching. Mm-hmm. So the same thing with neuro-linguistic programming, when you're using it for the good. So sometimes it can be used, and to answer your question, I don't find it any different in using it. I think I haven't noticed a difference, but I've also been working online for 17 years or 18 now. So so I mean, video is, when I coach, I insist on video for that reason. And it's like, I'm not trying to get someone's money, right? When I use neurolinguistic programming, it's already in a coaching relationship. So I already have their approval to take them wherever they need to go, right? Based on their desired result. So they trust me. There's a big
that would make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't use neurolinguistic programming in sales. I use sales strategy. And obviously, as a journalist, I have a very strong grasp of language and what moves and what works. But I think that, you know, if we can just dive in here, I think that there's a piece of our industry that isn't being responsible with it and really understanding. So when I say I'm very energetic, I can read an energy. Are you afraid, but yet excited? Or are you afraid because it's really a bad move, but yet you think it's what you need, but maybe it's really not, right? So it's just being discerning with the energy, really learning to read the person, giving them space too. Because I do human design as well. And some of us are meant to not be fast action takers. We're meant to hear the question, let it sit. The question comes back the second time, and then we're ready to make a decision. So it's just like all of these pieces. And I wish it was just a quick, simple answer, Daphne, but I think that that's the whole point of being an expert at something. Is it's not black and white. It's really learning to read all of the whole hemisphere of what you're dealing with.
There's definitely a section of coaching, especially as it's become pervasive, right? I think there's some ridiculous, like 6 million people on LinkedIn now with the title of coach in their description. But I have definitely seen it used to manipulate people. And maybe that's my only experience with it. Or maybe if I had a good experience, I didn't know that was what was going on.
That's the difference. I think that's the difference, is if it feels icky, right?
Yeah.
And that's energy. It's energy. It's where's the intention and how is it hitting with me, right? But if something is done well, it's a conversation. It's a dance. It really is. It's a dance. It's I'm feeling the way you're moving. I'm moving with you. I'm also going to move my way and see if you come. And if you don't come, then we probably shouldn't be dancing together. And that's okay. And I think that that's also the piece that's probably missing in the industry is it's okay. If it's a no, it's okay. You're not, you're not going to go and fall off a cliff tomorrow and fail at something. It's just, it's not the right decision for you right now. And I think that that's another place of discernment, that when you become mature and you become responsible and you use your tools responsibly, you can see that. And you can also feel it from the other side, like you're saying, Roberta.
Yeah. Get to the truth, not to the sale.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that allowing, how you said creating space, use that term, creating space, or allowing space for someone to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think I know what I experienced was the opposite. They were trying to make the space as small as possible to where you could not say no. I won't say out of a malicious. I think it was more of they felt that most people needed to buy the coaching that they were selling.
And some of these coaches have an element of desperation too. Like there's an element of desperation, and maybe that's what you're feeling too. Because let's be honest, visibility, right? So everyone's getting visible. I say everyone, right? We see all these people getting visible, but it's really easy to look more successful than you are. So this great coach looks amazing online, comes to you and starts using these scarcity tactics, we call them. I mean, that's to me, that's a pure indicator of where they are in their business. And it's always like, okay, well, when you mature, then maybe we can have a conversation. But I just turned 50. So I'm just like, and I don't know if it's a G-rated podcast, but I don't care.
Go for it.
I don't give a shit what someone thinks about, if I give you space or if I'm honest. One of the reasons why I'm so powerful in what I do is because I can be honest, and I can very quickly streamline the process and go right to the heart of the matter. Of course, it's with permission, but if you don't have my permission to sell to me or to make me an offer, I take that very seriously. Like I did not give you permission to come in here and try and tell me, but I love these like sales offers where they're like, oh, I can teach you how to make X amount in X time. And I'm like, really? That was so 4 years ago for me. Like, thanks for showing up now though. But, I mean, I just think that it's so easy to look at the things that are wrong, but there's a lot that's done right in the industry. And I really love to surround myself with those people. Some of them have already been on your podcast. Like I was looking through some of your previous guests and I was like, oh, there's my friend and there's my friend, and I think that that's one of the things that attracted me to both of you as well, is because you have high integrity, and high integrity people tend to attract each other. So I always look for people who have a lot of people in common.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Daphne and I have both learned to embrace, her recovering life insurance agent, me coming out of mortgage sales. We've learned to embrace no. Have learned to embrace not right fit. I've learned to embrace, boy, that check would be nice, but that's just not the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's funny because I walked away from journalism. It was like full time, because this was my side gig for a while, because I really just couldn't let go of journalism. For me, it was really, it helped validate my expertise. But when I walked away, it was a really big thing for me, like kind of in the same way that you were saying. I don't even remember why I started that, but it's like just making that decision and knowing it's, I don't know, what were you saying, Roberta?
Well, because, and, Daphne and I are on two different sides of our audience, right? We always say we're Gen X women who left corporate. Some of us were asked to leave. Some of us left, right? But we all ended up in or chose the space of entrepreneurship. But yeah, it can be really hard. Like I was so excited to turn in my mortgage loan officer license. I cried like a 5-year-old all day the day I turned in my license. And I thought I would be so excited. But yeah, I mean, I was ready to move on, but you're right. It's like that validation, 20 years of, I know everything there is to know about that.
And starting fresh. Yeah. So there's a funny story. The day after my last day of journalism, I was so excited. I was like, yay, what am I going to do with my time? So my husband and I got into this little discussion, shall we say. And then I think I was talking with my hands. I accidentally knocked over one of those like wax scented things. There was wax all over my kitchen floor. So I spent the first half day of my new life as Cinderella. I was like, I didn't do this to become Cinderella. So like, how hard it is to get like wax off of tile?
Oh yeah.
And it was the whole thing too. And I was like crying and like yelling inside at myself and, and like, what am I doing? But it was really a lot. It was like this loss of an identity, which is probably what you went through. But it's hard. And I think too many people minimize the transition and what that journey looks like. It's not like, yay, I did this thing and woohoo, I'm so happy. Like when you give up something, it needs to be replaced with something. And there's kind of this dumpster fire of things coming in. And what am I doing? What am I keeping? Who am I? What do I want to be? It's like, it's a big deal, especially around, in your 40s and 50s. It's a big deal because you're like, how much of the clock is this way and how much of the clock is that way? And, these are big things to consider.
It is. And you don't, you have to accept that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're moving into newer space. And you're a different person. You're not that 20-something or that 30-something. No, I'm this age. This is what I want to do. Because it really struck me when you said, I don't give a shit. And that is one of the most awesome things about crossing 50. I don't give a shit. I don't know. I'm not happy with okay. You're not happy with this, but I am. So
yeah, that's right. That's your problem, not mine. I'm always saying that's not my monkeys, not my circus. I'm sorry. That is your issue, not mine, and I'm not taking it on.
Yeah, I wear comfortable shoes. So I'll put sparkles on them. I don't know. I wear comfortable shoes. I don't know. My feet aren't going to hurt anymore at the end of it. No, I don't. I do this. So this is where I am, and that's synonymous with podcasting or business. So this is where I am, and it's okay. I'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
I will figure something out. So because when you were saying showing up powerfully, I had a mentor once that said, if you don't say who Who's not saved if you don't say anything?
Yeah. And that was like the big deal too for me. The closer I got to 50, the more I realized it took a lot of like self-discovery and like who am I here to be? What am I here? What's my legacy? Right. So start looking at it's no longer about I have to prove the things and I have to achieve the things. It's okay, what am I leaving? What is my legacy? What do I want to be remembered for? And I think that that's why I moved into teaching people how to get into the media, because there's so much left untapped out there. And I don't know if either of you have this ability, but when I meet somebody, I see their soul, I see their fire, I see all of their capability. And I was seeing so much of it just being left. I mean, even at PodFest, a lot of the conversations, Roberta, were these amazing people. And all I would hear were stories of like, oh, well, I can't, but well, when I do this, then I'll, and it was like, no, just take, I mean, there was one woman, she just was so excited talking to my husband and I at our booth. And we just convinced her, just go get interviews and start your podcast. And she ran from the booth and started interviewing people because there were some pretty high caliber people in the podcasting industry there. And she just put her phone in their face. I said, you don't even need the equipment right now. You never know when you're going to get this opportunity again. But I think that there's this element though, when we start getting to like in our 40s and 50s where we're like, okay, who can I help? It's not even like, how much money can I make? And how can I like be this most amazing celebrity? It's who can I help get there? Because I can see that I have the ability to help them. And that was what made me shift into this space, because I was leaving like 30 years of journalism and broadcasting experience, just walking away, just threw it away. I wasn't using it. And it took my mentor to really help me see, Debbie, what are you doing? You have all this experience. I want to know how to do it. How do I get in the media? I was completely blind to my own gift. And so being able to help other people find that is really, for me, the purpose work, is helping them pull out all the things preventing them from showing up powerfully. And I would imagine being in the like sales and insurance industries, it's really a shift from like having to think and perform in like corporate and within the structure to how do I now show up really powerfully as who I am, right? Daphne is like, I don't give a shit because I'm over 50 and, but not everyone is there. They're still in these structures and the stories. And so it's time to let them all go.
But I'm glad you said that, because I feel like we'll talk about mentors. One of my mentors' big thing is, if it can be algorithmed, it will. So if you sound like something and you're acting in a corporate space like an algorithm, you are 100% replaceable.
Yep.
If you can show up as yourself, even in that corporate environment, sales environment, whatever, show up as yourself, like you say, with the gifts that you have, with your energy, with your, hey, I don't give a shit, but I have this thing and you may really need it. So let me know over here, or you can show up like an algorithm and a phone app is going to beat you.
Yeah. Like, don't be an algorithm. I mean, your energy is your signature. So everyone shows up in a room with a particular signature. That cannot be, well, I don't know. I guess maybe at some point it might be able to be an algorithm, right? But, yeah.
Well, to get your voice out there. For instance, I remember Anchor. They were on the early podcast not listing services, but they were one of the early, they came early to podcasting.
Yeah, I remember when they came out.
Host a podcast. And their thing was just press record. Now they had some shortcomings because they were new to the game, because they were very early in the adoption.
Yeah.
But that was always fundamental, because it was just press record. Well, nobody listens. Somebody's going to find you, because getting your voice, speaking powerfully and getting your voice out there, you don't know until you get started. And everybody doesn't have to listen to you. You don't need everybody. You don't. 1,000. I finally read the essay. 1,000 raving fans.
Yep.
And 1,000 raving fans kept the deadheads in mansions. I mean, those guys they're on stage with with oxygen tanks and defibrillators nearby. And the folks in the audience, half of them are the same way, but they're raving fans. They're there. They're there. They're there to see those guys.
Yeah.
And to build up and to relate to your audience. So I finally took my own advice, and earlier talking about YouTube and so forth. Well, there's there are millions of folks coming on every day, and millions of hours of video are being uploaded every day, and so forth and so on. Yep. But there's only one Grown Women Growing Wealth podcast. And it's got to get out there for folks to find it. And at some point they will find it because we're putting it out there. So whatever the algorithm is or is not doing, you've still got to get out there and give it a shot.
Yeah, and there's the people that are magnetized to you, and you're bringing them the most valuable people that they can have because of who you're attracting. So it's like your channel of people need what you're offering, and it's that specific. And the 1,000 Raving Fans, I just read that recently too. I just read that, which is so funny because I had never heard that before. And I think it's so powerful because it makes it so much more palatable. It's like, I think on my Facebook, I have almost 2,000 friends. So if you look at it like that, and I think I have like almost 2,000 followers. So there you go. Somewhere within there is probably 1,000 fans. So it's just, how do you talk to them, right? How do you show up for them? How do you offer the value to them and keep your algorithm? Because let's be honest, we're definitely working. We have sometimes technology working against what we're trying to do, and sometimes it seems like it works with us. So the algorithm in that sense on social, for example, it matters. And so there's all these other components, but the most important thing is when you show up as yourself, the right people see you and they might like you and engage with you and then share it, and then they're people, right? So it's the same thing as who you have on your podcast. Now, just by showing up as yourself on social, you're able to attract the people who most need your message. And the same thing goes with media. That's why the traditional media can be so powerful. And podcast interviews are so powerful because you are talking to people who are already a relatively warm audience. They're paying attention because you're speaking about something they care about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point.
They tuned in for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. They checked out, or they're checking you out, and they'll get used to you also. Are you familiar with the comedian Kathleen Madigan?
I am not.
Oh. Anyway, she's just a comedian. Been around she's our age.
Okay. I might be, but I'm horrible with names, just so you know.
Which makes her even more hilarious. But anyway, she started during the pandemic. She got on Instagram and she started reading books, and she's a great mimic, right? So she would do voices as she was reading the books, and then you throw the comedian part in there, and it was hilarious. Well, anyway, she started a podcast, and it got to the point where it would drop every Tuesday, and she missed a Tuesday for some reason, or she was late, and she was like, "Look, I didn't know you guys were this into the damn podcast. Stop writing me." Stop being mean to my engineer. We'll try to make the Tuesday dates. Because there are people, particularly during the pandemic, because I was like, every Tuesday, I actually look forward to it because we were laughing. You related to the podcast.
Yeah.
So consistency is important, and people do wait for you. They want to hear what you got to say once they're into whatever it is.
Yeah, and they get mad if you're not there. They're like, I'm expecting you here. Where are you?
Right.
It's called raving fans for a reason.
Exactly.
Right? They're raving happy, but they're raving mad if you don't show up for them when they're
I have a cup of coffee and I hit Spotify. What do you mean you haven't dropped yet? What are you doing with your life that you
Right. Like, try going to a Harry Styles concert and Harry Styles doesn't show up. There's going to be a couple angry people in that crowd, right?
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I don't want the understudy. I want you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I bought these tickets to see you.
So for traditional media, and I will own this, I would say it's something I would never even think to, podcast. Okay. I feel like almost everybody's got a podcast, so go ahead and ask, right? But traditional media, is this for a specific type of business or person? Who would you suggest? And then I would love to hear how you suggest going about it.
So it's specific. Right now, I can tell you just at the time of this recording, there's a lot of need for realtors and astrologers. I have so many friends and I'm networked so deeply in the media that I can sort of spot these trends that happen. Right now, those are sort of two industries that a lot of places, especially like online magazines and stuff like that. But when you say, who do I recommend? Do you mean what media do I recommend?
No, like, is it service-based industries? Is it local businesses that should try to do this? Okay, realtors, I understand that because there's so much going on in the real estate market. Well, let's take real.
It's a lot, really. So I mostly work with entrepreneurs, people who are business owners, and they really want to up level their game. So they're already successful, but they know it's like going from one-to-one sales to one-to-many. So, so for example, if you're a marketing agency, right, you own a marketing agency, then advertising age would be something that you might want to get into. Inc. Magazine is a good one for, Entrepreneur Magazine as well. Now, there's a difference too, Roberta, between paid and earned. So we see a lot, as seen in or as seen on ABC, NBC, and Fox. Like that's a lot of even some of the larger places like Forbes, you can actually pay to be in there. So it's not always earned. And what I do is I focus on the earned media because that's really where you get your credibility. Now, a lot of people don't know the difference, right? If I see that, if I hadn't been in the media and I didn't understand those pay to play type of schemes, then I might not know that that's not earned, right? So it does work. It works to a point for people. But you have to also be able to deliver, if you've been seen in these places, you also need to be an expert when people come to you and try to get your services. But the earned media is where it really does elevate your credibility, and numbers are all over the board as far as the value of that. But I mean, it's just, even Richard Branson was saying that, the earned media trumps a paid ad any day of the week, really. And then that's what I think when a person is considering, wow, I never even thought about media for myself. How would I even go about doing that? Like you were kind of asking, it's really just find, where do you want to be? What matters to you, right? Do you want to be on the Today Show, or do you want to be on The List, or do you want to be in Entrepreneur Magazine, or do you, there's all these different ways. I do have trainings on this. It's not quite a fast and easy answer, but I would say that the most direct thing I can say is, where do you want to be? Now go and find out who writes for them, who if TV, radio, who the producers are, who the editors are, and just start creating relationships with those people. Get on their social. Everybody's on social. Go to their, most of the time I find they're on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn. Usually Instagram and LinkedIn are the big ones right now. So just create relationships, provide value. And that's really the place to start, is start focusing on where you want to be and who's there.
Okay. Can I float you my story with that?
Sure, absolutely.
So I had, by virtue of my coach suggesting it, writing in places, because he had done this with his original business. Fortunately for him, he was in a very small niche. So there were like 2 to 4 journals in his industry, and he sent them articles.
Right.
I think he also did advertorials, right? Where it looks like an article, but it's an ad.
Right.
But it was a small space. So, so my clients are mainly real estate and mortgage. There are a lot of e-zines out there. I actually got into a few of them, and then it changed to where they want you to pay. Everybody wants you to pay $200, $2,000, $5,000, whatever, to even write for them. So some of them also, I've noticed their articles are terrible. So like, okay, I don't really even want my article in this magazine when these people have not only paid, but their writing's terrible. So, but I have seen other magazines and other higher end podcasts that I would like to get on in the space. How would you recommend? So, you think I should target the magazine or target the pod, and then try and find the people who are producing, or
Yeah, find who works there, right? Or the host. Start creating a relationship, and that works by going to their social medias and commenting and genuinely providing value. So one of the ways that you can do this is if they're, let's say it's a journalist and they've gotten an article in Inc. magazine, for example.
Mhm.
I say that because I just recently connected with their editor in chief. So it's top of mind for me. I'm just going to, and it's easy to say, not like neurolinguistic programming. So, yeah. But let's say you want to get in Inc. magazine, and you've recently connected with a journalist there, and what you do is you start looking at, they're sharing their posts. So look at what are they talking about, and then if there's a story that you could potentially advance for them, then ask a question on their social, like, oh, this is great, I'd love to know what happens when they do this, or this is great. I just saw this article about how X number of people actually took this and did this with it, right? They're always looking for new ideas because they need you. They need you more than you need them, because they don't have a job without a source.
Right.
So it's really looking at creative ways to provide value. Another thing would be if you know someone. So connection is really critical. I have so many people. I'm really strong in the veteran network as well because I'm a veteran. So anytime there's a need or an opportunity to add a veteran source, I have so many that I can offer someone. Then I just say, hey, I have 3 people who are actual experts and veterans in this. Would you be interested in me connecting you with them? Because what people don't want, I mean, think about this, right? The icky feeling of someone selling you. We don't want to be sold. We want to connect. We want someone to offer value in the relationship. So it's the same thing with them. Oh, this person, wow, they weren't even trying to get me to use them as a source. They're sharing their friend as a source for me, and they remember that.
What branch?
I'm sorry?
What branch?
Navy.
Okay.
Get
the Marines where they need to go.
Well, I mean, okay, so yeah, I'm not even gonna, because Marines, in the military, it's very competitive, but it's friendly competitive. And we used to always joke that the Marines, thanks, because you're the Department of the Navy, right? It was just like this funny thing. And then and we would be like, oh, Marines can't get there without us. But then the Marines would easily come back and say, yeah, but you'd all die if it wasn't for us. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, my brother, he's a sailor. So
is he? Yeah. Oh, but that's fun. Yeah.
So the family gatherings are pretty funny because it can get pretty bawdy.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's like a sibling though, really, because there's nothing but respect between the military, because we all know what it took to move through that.
Oh and yeah. Well, I did a tour on a boat, and a lot of the jokes stopped after that. I mean, there was always the good natured ribbing, but it was like, ooh, these boys.
Yeah.
Because when you're on that boat, you guys work 24 hours a day. There is rack time, but even then, nobody knows till they've actually served aboard a ship about how hard sailors work.
Yeah.
Because there's always the reputation. Well, the whole body physique thing and things of this nature, and you guys are lazy. Okay. You got to spend time aboard a ship, and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
You learn real quickly.
I'm so happy. So I was stationed in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. I mean, I say happy. It was difficult in of itself because I was basically on a deserted island. And anytime I tried to fly off, everyone who came in on the ships got priority. So like the emergency leave people, the emergency situations, I got bumped off so many planes trying to get a vacation home during that time. It was like, eventually I was like, it's fine. This tour will end eventually and I'll get back there. But yeah, I mean, I think every military branch and every location has its its benefits and its challenges. But I think that ultimately there's huge respect, because you do have to sacrifice so much to be in the military. I mean, you can't even walk on grass. You can't put your hands in your pockets. You know, it's like looking at boot camp and how they kind of train you to just like fit within that box, because they want to make sure that push comes to shove, you're going to follow the rules that are going to keep everyone alive. And that's really what it's all about. It's like, are you willing to follow the rules that are going to protect your, you know, your shipmates?
When you were down at Gitmo, did you get to use the beach? Do they allow you guys to swim and play in the water down there?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. I was huge into volleyball, and I did snorkeling, but there are a lot. Scuba diving is huge down there. It's like, I thought it was, at the time I was there in early 90s, it was like #2 in the world for best scuba diving.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because all we think of now when you hear Gitmo is, you know, like a horrible looking prison with crazy terrorists in it.
I went there between, I think between the two Haitian situations. So it was right after the first one. So the camp there was mostly abandoned. There wasn't really much going on. And that was actually on the way to my favorite beach, where it was like, I'm going back now, but it was like this point where you could go over 50 miles an hour on the base, because it was like straight down a mountain, downhill to the ocean, and you could just let it fly. It was really the only sense of freedom that a sailor could get on that island. I mean, it was, well, I did go water skiing too in the bay, which was a little scary for me, because I'm like, okay, you're thinking about where I am, how many people's radars and scopes I might be in while I'm out here having fun. Woohoo! You know? And I thought about that, and I'm like, sharks, I don't know, because I was raised in Delaware and the, you know, Eastern Shore of Maryland, in that area, and we'd have sharks, and I don't know what's in that water, and you know, but it was fun while it lasted anyway. But there's there was a lot of fun stuff to do down there, and I think with any place, you know, when you just look for it, you'll find it.
And it helps being between the ages of 18 and 22.
Yeah, and not having kids. My whole world changed. My whole perspective changed when I had kids. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I have kids depending on me now.
All right. Yes, jumping off this balcony into the pool. I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
That's a hoot.
So so you leave the Navy, what, late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, it was 90s. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay, so is that when you entered journalism at that point, or you went to school for a bit on the benefits? What?
Well, it's so funny. I took television and communications 4 years in high school. So I already had 4 years of production experience and all of that. Then
that's really cool.
Yeah. I went to college for a year, and I had a broadcasting scholarship, but I looked around toward the end of that first year, at all the people who were going to be fighting for the same 4 TV jobs when we graduated. And I was like, you know what, this is not really for me. This is not what I'm all about. And so I joined the Navy, with, I think it was like an E2, because I had a year of college. And then when I got out, I finished my degree, but what did I do? I did like marketing and stuff. Oh, okay. On the train, when I got out of the Navy, on the train ride back from DC to Delaware, I met an owner of a marketing agency in Wilmington. And he said, whenever you're ready, whenever you want, you have a job. And so while I was in college, I started an internship there, and then they hired me on. And so that's how I got into marketing and doing like press releases. So that was my big job, was doing press releases for all the clients. And then from there, I always wanted to be the next Barbara Walters. So I just kept doing TV. And then I landed in radio, and I loved it because I didn't have to wear makeup, because I'm a nature girl. I put makeup on for you ladies because.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I am earthy. I like rock climbing, hiking, nature girl, kayaking. That's me. So radio was my natural place to be. And then, and I went from Wilmington to Dallas. So I was working in a statewide radio network in Dallas. And then 9/11 happened. And I was already talking to the man that became my husband, and I was like, you know what, life is too short, and you never know what's going to happen, and I'm gonna go be with the man. I'm gonna go start my life with this guy. And so I went back to radio there, and then we got married. I got pregnant with my only son, my first child. I have 2 kids. And I didn't want to leave him. And the online market was just starting, like being able to work remotely was brand new in the journalism industry. And I just kept applying. And there's this really great tip for your audience. So, and I tell my kids this all the time. So at first I was passed over for the financial journalism job that I did for 17 years. And the guy told me, he said, I'm sorry, we went with someone else. And I knew there was a 30-day probationary period with this and whatever. And so this was my husband's idea, by the way. And he said, well, why don't you just tell him in 30 days, if you find yourself looking for to fill this position again, please reach out to me. And I did. And the editor thought that was so classy. It just showed so much. And I'm not exactly sure what he saw in that. But he told me that was the reason why they hired me 30 days later. They reached out and said, you were so classy in your email. We'd love to give you a shot. And I was one of their top performers for over a decade. So it definitely worked out to my advantage and theirs. So my tip is, if you don't get it at first, always keep that door open and approach it with class.
Always. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
because you never know when you're gonna.
Thing, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Daphne.
No, go ahead.
Go finish, my friend.
No, to stay present of mind. Again, that's about showing up. You're staying present and you're there. And what Maya Angelou, people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. Okay, so that stood out. Okay, well, look, didn't work out this time. Keep me in mind.
Yeah, I'm a huge connector too. And so I'm always looking at, well, what's the opportunity in this? Who do I know that can be a resource? And I think that that's why teaching people how to get in the media is so important to me, because if I can stress nothing, it's about make that connection. Because even if you don't get your story published today, you can create that relationship for tomorrow. And it's just, I think that there's a lot of focus on the here and the now. Oh, I didn't get it. And then their energy and their mental state will drop and they'll consider themselves a failure. No, what you did was you succeeded at opening a new relationship with this person. You succeeded at creating a new relationship. Now, how can you nurture it?
Right. Attempting to stay in contact or in the same area. Now I know those networking rules about I spend the first hour of 3 days a week calling, hey, how you doing? Just reaching out. And I'm like, I don't know, buddy. I don't do that.
I don't do that either.
But I do insert social media in there, Facebook and Instagram, and just a hey and a comment. Because I know you mentioned earlier about going into someone's DMs and just, hey, how you doing? Replying to a comment or something they said.
Yeah, not the DMs. So I have a hard and fast rule, and maybe this will help somebody. I don't want you in my DMs if I don't know who you are yet.
I agree.
So if we became social media friends yesterday or last month, and there isn't a, hey, Debbie, I'm so glad that we connected. And I'm speaking of this from a media person, right? When I was in the media, like everybody wants to pitch you. So I don't want you coming into my DMs, because to me, it's like the 2020 version of calling somebody without letting them know you're calling first. Don't call me. Why are you calling me? Oh my God. Or showing up at the front door. Like, what are you doing? Hide. Yeah. So I think it's like that. Like our relationships have gotten so important and sacred because the space that we have in our privacy has gotten so small. So we protect those. So not the DMs for sure, unless you've already had some sort of, and this is the opposite, by the way, of what some people will say. They'll be like, be a friend, say hi. Now, it's fine if we've just connected and you're telling me why we connected, right? Hey, Debbie, I'm happy to be friends. I saw you do this. I love that. this is what I do. Maybe there's a synergy or something like that. But again, it's making it about who you're reaching out to and not you. Right. So I think that's the big thing. But yeah, just commenting on their posts and being, they want their algorithm and their engagement high.
Sure.
So if you're helping that, of course you're helping them. But beyond that, offering that little extra bit of value goes a really long way.
I think it can be platform as well. One of the best things I heard about Facebook is the coffee shop. So treat it that way. If I met you at the coffee shop yesterday and you said hi to me and oh, hi, Debbie, nice to meet you. I'm not going to sit down and say, oh, I have a $20,000 coaching package. Would you like more income in your life or you don't? Right.
Yeah. And Facebook is actually blocking people from being able to message new friends, like friends that they've just accepted or connected to within a certain time period. No because kidding. People are doing that. No kidding. I actually have this guy makes eight figures in his business, and he was blocked from messaging new people on Facebook because he follows that structure of, hey, we just connected, blah, blah, blah. So someone probably marked him as spam, right? Or unsolicited. I forget what Facebook's reporting.
It calls it spam because I spammed somebody. Okay. I reported somebody's spam the other day. Maybe I shouldn't have.
Well, yeah. So it will, but honestly, if you felt like they were spamming you, that's your prerogative, right? That's why we have the capability of doing that. But it's, that's the unfortunate part of it in trying to, it's like forcing a relationship. I feel like when I look at someone's profile and I can see, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I can see the power. I know I already have friends who are looking for people in their industry. I think they'd be a great source. Then yeah, I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, Roberta, I have this amazing opportunity for someone in the media. I work with people. So for me, I have a 90-day coaching program where I teach them how to move through the things that are keeping them from doing the pitching and showing up powerfully. But then we create the system. Like I teach them how to do a media one sheet. We create really powerful pitches that are based on 100% success rate. We do stuff like that together. So one of the things that is almost frustrating for me even is when I see someone I'm not working with yet, I want to hurry up and get them in because I'm like, I know the power of what I can help you do. So I try to message someone like that, but I don't, it's not like, oh, I want, 100 new people in my community. And so I'm going to reach out to everyone and send them all this generic message of like, hey, I can help you. Because quite honestly, the higher level you get in what you do, you realize you can't help everybody and not everyone wants. That's the biggest thing. That's why I started the Show Up Show, because not everyone wants it. Not everyone even can, not everyone has the capacity, not now or for a long time even, to step into that version of themselves because it does require work to be visible. It requires a mindset. It requires an energy, a vibration, right? A light. And you have to be able to openly share that in order to do what I do with people. So, yeah.
Well, it goes back to you two talking about the 1,000 fans, right?
Yeah.
Where those guys, the whole essay is about they could have gone through an agency that would broadcast them to hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Or they could find 1,000 people who bought absolutely every version of everything they ever produced, ever.
Yeah.
My mentor, I laugh at it all the time. Like when I grow up, I'm going to have people pay me to market to them because I pay him to market to me and I'm not mad because I'm a raving fan. 9 times out of 10, I want what he's trying to tell me.
Yeah. My first coach. Yeah. My first online coach, I'm pretty sure I bought everything. I'm pretty sure I spent 6 figures just with her in the first 2 years. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. I paid what, $12,000 for a weekend just to be in the space. And it was the same things that she had already taught me in other programs. And then I did another, one-on-one VIP date for 10 grand. But it was like, it's a raving fan. And when someone gets you and you get them at that really deep level, it's so powerful. And so that's exactly what you're saying. It's like creating even if it's not 1,000 of that level, but the raving fan where it doesn't matter what you sell, they're going to buy. And that's all about that deep connection, which I don't think you can get that deep connection if you don't have it with yourself. That's the work I do.
You definitely have to have that, that ability to be vulnerable at the right level. Right. You know, I don't want to see your, like we said, I don't want to see your underpants at the coffee shop. Yeah. But if I've known you for a while, maybe you want to tell me, hey, you know, this is how I end up reconciling with my husband. Right.
Yeah.
So that type there, but also, again, what Daphne was saying earlier, when someone's energy is bad, like with the NLP or the commission breath, or they just want your check, you really can start to feel it unless you're just blinded to it. And those are the people who burn through. They need 100,000 fans because they lost the first 1,000 every day, right?
Yeah.
You wrote them one check and that's it.
Yeah. And their focus is numbers, not relationships. And I think that's the difference. Because for the people I work with, I want relationships with all of them. I don't work with anyone that I couldn't see myself hanging out with at the coffee shop, because we have to have that level of relationship to do the work. There's a lot of trauma bonding out there. I don't do that. I go in, help pull the trauma out because that's what's in the way. And in order to be able to do that, there has to be this deep trust. They have to know I am here for you. And everything I say is really so that we can get you out of your own way and really showing up powerfully to make that impact. Because ultimately that the clients that I work with, that's what they want, is they want that impact. They're like agency owners and they want to help other agency owners figure out it can be easy. You don't have to, grind your knuckles and give up everything. You can have a life, you can have your family, you can create the right relationships to have people doing things for you in your business. So you don't have to be so burned out and just handcuffed to the business. Yeah. I mean, it's that impact that is so important.
Yeah. It's a business, not a job.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to, in the beginning, it is a job because you're focused on building it. But the thing is to get systems and create where it's a business. If I disappear on Mykonos for a month, it's okay. I can come back and the doors aren't shuttered and things of that nature. Yeah. That's what we all want to get to.
Yes.
All want to get to.
Yeah.
Look, we want to be respectful of your time. We're nearing that magic hour level. Tell our listeners and viewers how to get in touch with Debbie Pace, visibility expert.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. I am on all socials as Debbie Pace or Debbie Pace Global. That's the name of my company. You can also follow me on the Show Up Show. I try not to give too many places and too many things. If we connect online, I do have a free resource that I offer people in my community. It's my 100% success rate pitch formula. So I offer it. It comes with, I show the pitch that I used that got me 100% success and what I use for clients. And then there's also a framework teaching you exactly what to put in and where. So exactly how that actually works and how you can make one for yourself. So connect with me on social. And if you want that formula, I'm happy to give it to you. The link, we're currently doing some website production, so I can't send them directly to the link on my website, but there's stuff on my website too, debbiepacegglobal.com. Wherever they like to find people, you can find me anywhere. And I'm just really interested in relationships. So if you're looking to connect with me, please do reach out, send me a message. I'm giving you permission, right? Permission to get in my DMs and let's have a conversation because you already know who I am by this point. And so if there's an interest in a relationship, then it's a pretty good sign that there's probably a reason we should connect and have a conversation.
Hey, great. Thanks a lot. And hey, listeners, go to our website, grownwomengrowingwealth.com, hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when the latest episode drops via audio. And those of you that are catching us on YouTube, like the video, make a comment, subscribe, and smash the bell so you'll know when the latest video drops. Debbie, thanks for coming. Roberta, love you.
Yes, ma'am. You too, girl.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.